हेलो। माइक टेस्ट। माइक टेस्ट। माइक टेस्ट। हेलो हेलो। वीडियो दिख रहा है? राइटअप बना हुआ है, बिल्कुल पढ़ के दिखाओ क्या? अच्छा। ओ। Uh, Hello, everyone. Mr. Sagar is stuck with something, but he'll be joining us shortly in about 10 to 15 minutes. So, thank you for being here.
হেডফোন দিলে হেডফোন হেডফোন ছাড়া তাহলে তো সাউন্ড শুনতে পাওয়া মুশকিল হয়ে যাবে। সাউন্ড
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Sagar would be around 5 to 10 minutes late. And yeah, so thank you for joining, and we'll start soon. Hello, everyone. We'll be starting soon. Please bear with us for a few more minutes. And thank you for joining us.
So just to give some context of the delay, he's been called upon by the board of directors on a very short notice, and this is the major reason for the delay. So typical startup problems, you might understand that. Thank you for that. I hope most of you are participating in I2I as well. So I hope most of them are ready with your pitch decks and all. We're all hoping a very good session for I2I. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hi guys. Sorry,
Uh,
I'm running terribly late.
no, sir, it's fine. We understand. Yeah.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yep. So, how do you want to go about it? You have any particular format? How is it like?
So we'll just have a short introduction and then we can start with the session.
Okay. And just give me a background. The guys who are attending the session, I believe there are some finalists for some business plan competition, is it?
Yes, sir. So they are the finalists for an event called I2I.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I am Calcutta, that is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got
It's
it.
part of the Genesis Fest.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Done.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the speaker series of Genesis, the flagship e-summit of IIM Calcutta. The theme for this year is Imagining a New Tomorrow. Transition to online medium has given us a unique opportunity to invite eminent speakers across industry domains. It has also led to tremendous participation so far from various parts of the country. In this session, we have with us Mr. Sagar Daryani, co-founder, CEO of Wow Momos Private Limited. Mr. Sagar Daryani and Mr. Binod Homagai started Wow Momo at the age of 21. Being a brand originated out of Kolkata, Wow Momo has become the country's largest chain of momos, both in terms of volume as well as turnover. Well, very recently, Wow Momo won the Best SME of the Year award. In 2014, Mr. Sagar was conferred with the 50 Most Talented Retail Professionals of India award. The topic for today's session is Journey of a Food Startup. We are live on YouTube as well. And let's hear Mr. Sagar's views on the same. We welcome you, sir, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Jaydeep. Firstly, congratulations to all the finalists here. I guess you guys are pitching tomorrow. That's what I was informed by my friends in Thai, Kolkata, who asked me to come for this event. And I'm, grateful and glad to be attending here. So yeah, I mean, journey of a startup is a startup. To be very honest, I've always believed कि अगर जिंदगी में कुछ करना है, आगे बढ़ना है, तो मुश्किलें आएंगी, उनका सामना करना है, लड़ना है, लेकिन आगे बढ़ना है. So, there are these lines of Javed Akhtar Sahab that I keep telling myself and keep imbibing, is that अगर मंजिलें हैं तो मुश्किलें हैं तो हौसला है तो विश्वास है, क्योंकि फाइटर जो है ना हमेशा जीतता है. So yeah, I mean, friends, you winner never quits and a quitter never wins. I guess my journey in the last 12 years as an entrepreneur has been like a Bollywood blockbuster. And I will tell you about it as I get into my story. But it's something that we feel that we are living our dream. Currently, with a team of 3,000 people selling 5 lakh momos a day, we feel we are living our dream. But I personally believe that in this entire journey, in this entire phase of being an entrepreneur, there have been days when you are so tensed, anxious, upset, worried that you just can't sleep. You are depressed. You have tears in your eyes. You feel like giving up. And again, then there are days when you are so happy. You're so happy that you again don't want to sleep out of excitement, out of joy. So yeah, I mean, your dreams should be as big and so big that they don't allow you to sleep. So I can proudly say that my dreams don't allow me to sleep. And वैसा सपना, वैसा एक गोल अपने आप में रखना, एक जुनून रखना, I think that is what makes entrepreneurs, that is what makes startups. And yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, you have to go out there, win every battle, fight every battle, and when times are really good, you should run. You should just run. When times are average, you should walk. But one thing that I've learned and I want to share with all you guys is that when times are not so good, don't stop moving. Keep moving. Even if you have to crawl, but keep moving. I mean, that's very important. So yeah, I mean, coming to our journey, my friend Binod and me started Wow Momo 12 and a half years back with an investment of only rupees 30,000. We were in third year of college and St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. And I was pathetic with maths and numbers. I knew that, like you guys out there, I will not be able to crack a CAT examination and get into one of the IIMs and do my MBA. So I was like, yeah, if I'm pathetic with maths and numbers, that does not stop me from my dream of building a brand. So since childhood, I was always fascinated by brands. I mean, in my textbooks, I would have a logo of a Nike, of a Reebok, of an Adidas. So was always fascinated by the business of brands and wanted to always build my own brand. And what best way to build a brand out of food, I mean, because food is something that goes with the word of mouth. Today, if you like it, you go and tell your friends, they go and tell their friends. So, it's goes by the word of mouth. You don't need to have press ads. You don't need to have hoardings. You need to have a right product and a right audience for that product. And I think that's what we've been able to crack. So I think why momos is because, there was this lady in my school who would come and sell momos. I was in St. James' School, Calcutta. And her momos were really nice. I mean, I would buy one plate and just get one piece to eat. One plate would have 5 pieces. I would just get one piece to eat, and my friend would just gobble the rest. So that gave me confidence that, good quality momos can sell. And then we said, if Domino's can play with pizzas, if a Burger King can play with burgers, if a KFC can play with fried chicken, why can't we play with momos, So, in the day we began Wow Momo, our vision, we envisaged to become the Pizza Hut of pizzas. So if you think of pizzas, you think of a Domino's, you think of a Pizza Hut. So, we felt that if people think of momos, they should think of us. And, if brands like Domino's and KFC can come from abroad to India, why can't we build an Indian QSR that can go global? So that was the inspiration to begin with. And I think we just got going, borrowed rupees 30,000 from my dad, started in my home kitchen. My dad's garage became my storeroom. Could not now the thing is that how do you start a business with rupees 30,000 in India? So, in India, if you have to do a startup, whatever startup it is, forget food or whatever it is, you have to know how to do your jugaad, right? So we knew how to do our jugaad. We said, यार अगर हमको शुरू भी करना है business, तो 30,000 रुपए में हम तो दुकान नहीं खरीद सकते हैं, हम दुकान रेंट पे भी नहीं ले सकते हैं. So we did something very smartly. We went the shop-in-shop format where we opened our first store in a shop-in-shop format. So what happens in a shop-in-shop format is you open your small kiosk inside someone else's bigger departmental store. So we approached Spencer's. It's by the RPG Group, one of the supermarket chains in Calcutta, does phenomenally well. We approached Spencer's and we got a small 36 square feet space in one of the smallest Spencer's of Calcutta. It was a 1,500 square feet Spencer's of Calcutta. And there we got a small 36 square feet space, a 6 by 6. Now, from a 6 by 6 square feet, which is a 36 square feet, you don't have to do your flooring, you don't have to do your ceiling. That's how we got going. And from that small 36 square feet, I think we set up our first kiosk. It was a flex kiosk, a very flashy, bright yellow color flex kiosk, the same flex kiosk that maybe banks would use to promote their credit cards, in 2010, 2015 types. So we did a small kiosk ka dhacha, and I would make momos in my home kitchen, wake up early in the morning, take my bicycle at 5:30, go and buy the vegetables, the meat, go and buy the raw materials. And we had a part-time chef who would come and make momos those days. That same chef today, guys, by the way, we would pay him a 3,000 rupees salary in those days. He's not a corporate chef. He cannot speak in English, but he has the art and the talent to make wow momos. And that same chef today draws a fat 5-figure salary. He has ESOPs in the company. He's got a home to himself. He's got a 4-wheeler. His daughter goes to the best English medium school in Calcutta, one of the best English medium schools in Calcutta. So, you need to share well to make well. And I think that's what we've done with our team. But yeah, I mean, coming to the initial days, I remember in the initial days, we never even had money to print leaflets to promote the brand, so we would cut one momo into 4 parts and ensure that, we do sampling. So I would take a tray and walk up to every customer wearing the Wow Momo t-shirt that, hi sir, hi ma'am, we've opened a new food counter called Wow Momo. We have different types of momos. Please taste one piece and see. We were confident about the product. हमारे को मालूम था कि कोई हमारा मोमो एक बार खाएगा, they'll become ours forever. And customers would take a bite, come and buy a plate. And that's how we generate our initial revenue, our initial income. I remember, in Calcutta, we don't have meter auto rickshaws like how you have in Bombay. We have shuttle auto rickshaws. So for me and Binod to go to our first store from our kitchen, we had to take 2 auto rickshaws. And, it would cost us almost 30-40 rupees. Now, while coming back at night, because the momos would get sold out, it would not be heavy to carry them. We would walk one way to save rupees 10. And that's when we imbibed that in business, in entrepreneurship, 1 rupee saved is like 5 rupees earned. And you have to be very economic centric, unit economic centric. You have to take care of the bottom line also. I am someone who's completely a banya at heart. I believe money has to make money. Business has to be profitable. Yes, there can be some burn initially. There can be some burn for a particular period of time. But, ultimately, the role of any business is to create value in terms of economics, value in terms of money or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I mean, starting from there, from that small kiosk, we operated for 6 months. We were doing an average revenue of 2,000 rupees a day, so 60,000 rupees a month. Now, from that small Chodusa kiosk, Spencer saw that, we were doing decent revenue of 2,000 rupees because the entire store was doing around 40,000 rupees. So imagine, we were almost contributing to 5% of the store revenue, and from a very small square feet area. So they gave us this 90 square feet space in South City Mall, Spencer's in Calcutta. And now South City Mall was the biggest mall of Calcutta. And that store made us a brand. We became that small Chotusa momo shop in the city. We became the talk of the town. People, whoever would come to the mall to watch a movie would come to the Spencer's hypermarket, eat wow momos. People who would come to the shop would eat wow momos. That small store made us a brand. We became a talk of the town. And, that's how we saved money from these 2 outlets, opened another 2 more shop and shop formats, went to 4, from 4 went to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, bootstrap, plowed back profits. So right from 2008 when we began, until 2015, we bootstrapped, plowed back profits. We entered into new cities like a Bangalore, like a Chennai in South India. We got to 43 stores. We got to a 19 crore top line with no debt funding, no equity funding. So our initial investors were our customers. Our customers were our initial investors. Bootstrap, plowed back profits, 6.5 years, learned the business. Created, people who could clone us, transferred our passion into our team. Initially, for the first 3-4 years, the business was completely micromanaged. Then started investing in people. By investment, not mean hiring people who are highly paid, but hiring young people who have the energy to grow and transmitting your passion into them, building a team. A lot of patience, working with them, not doing any task alone, but ensuring that people learn with you, giving them growth. And in 6.5 years' time, we had this company which had 19-20 crore top line, had 43 stores, no debt funding, no equity funding, investors chasing us. That's when we raised our first round of angel funding from the Indian Angel Network. we raised around 10 crores at 100 crore valuation. So in those days, it was one of the and even until today, I think it's one of the largest angel rounds that's ever happened in India. We had 96 people participating, one of the largest valuations given to a food company. And all this why? Because we were profitable, we were growing, we had a proven model. So there's something known as idea, and there's something known as ideation. How do you execute that idea? I think we had proved it that we had done the execution quite well. And it was just a matter of time now when we can plug and grow. And I think right from there, we had some 96 people participating in an angel round. Mr. Sanjeev Bichindani, the founder of InfoEdge, Naukri.com, was my lead investor. Blessed to have him as a mentor. And it's because of him that I decided to raise angel money. I met him in one event in Calcutta, the kind of virtual event that you guys are having. I had a physical event called Tycoon Calcutta that happened in 2015, where I met him. And right from there, built my connections. He liked the product. We got going, got chatting. And I think within 2 months, we had money in the bank. So yeah, that's how you showcase your business and raise if you guys have seen that movie 3 Idiots, if you chase success, you might get to an extent, but if you chase excellence, success will follow you. So I think we had no intent to chase any kind of funding. We just chased excellence, and we got some of the best successful entrepreneurs investing in our idea. And glad to have them on our cap table. Glad to have mentors who can guide you. Once we raised angel funding from IAN, I think we entered into the Delhi markets because funding is like an ammunition. Once the money comes in, you have to use it in the right manner to grow, to scale very fast. So funding is actually like an ammunition. So we said, Delhi and Bombay are two of the most expensive real estate markets in India. Once the initial money came in, we decided to go to Delhi and not Bombay because momos were already being sold in Delhi in the roadsides, and we just had to build the brand. It was not about building the product. And most of our angel investors were also from Delhi. So, when you have angel investors, when you have seed investors, and you guys are all pitching tomorrow, it's not just about the money. It's also about what value addition they can do and how can you take out value from them, because they are busy people, they are HNIs, they are entrepreneurs, they will not have the time. But how can you take out the right value from them? How can you use their network better? And it's up to you as an entrepreneur to do it. Don't expect freebies to come your way. So I think we decided to go to Delhi because most of our angels were from Delhi, and we said that, it will help us in connection, it will help us in just growing and knowing the city better. And thankfully it worked that way. We entered Delhi in 2015. In the next 2 years, we had reached 108 stores. We had reached a 49 crore top line. So a big jump from 19 crore to 49 crores. We started to enter newer markets. We covered the whole of NCR, entered into Lucknow, Kanpur, more parts of North India. And that's when, we managed to raise our second round of funding. Our first Series A round of funding, you could say, after Angel. It was from Lighthouse Funds. Lighthouse Funds are one of the best consumer funds in India. They've backed brands like Fab India, Bikaji, Kama Ayurveda. So, some really good brands is what they've backed. And Lighthouse had a good sense of understanding of the consumer space. They had never invested in food, but I think both our teams got along very well. We had a couple of other term sheets also, but we chose Lighthouse over the rest because we felt that, they understand the business, they understand value creation, and they had a very good team. One of the partners was from the US, but settled in India, very good knowledge about the retail market, but a no-nonsense guy. The other partner was a complete mania, knew how to do dhanda in India. So that's really, really important to be business-centric. And the other partner was very, very open to hearing, to new ideas, to new views. And I think even amongst us, we had a great team. And that's, I think prior to that, in 2015, one very important aspect is that Binod and me started Wow Momo, but I got in a third co-founder, Shah Iftar Rahman, one of my college mates. He was one of the youngest VPs in PwC. So what happens is that when you grow very fast, right? So when we raise the angel funding from IAN and we're growing really fast, when you grow really fast, you want to focus on the growth as an entrepreneur. You want someone to focus on the bottom line, right? So we were advised by our mentors to, hire a CFO. But I said, I don't want a CFO. I want a CFOO, a Chief Financial Operating Officer, someone who can roll up his sleeve and, put his hand into operation. And I guess we hired Miftar more because I had seen him work in PwC. We would share the same guest house in Bangalore when I was expanding my business in Bangalore. And, he would come back home really late at night, work hard, be very dedicated, very diligent. And I just felt that, he has the zeal in him to become an entrepreneur. However, he wanted to become a partner in PwC. So I was not assertive, but I was very persuasive. And that's the art of an entrepreneur, to convince people to buy into your dream. And that's what I did. I convinced Miftar to buy into our dream. And we got him on board as a third co-founder. So again, I said, if you need to make wealth, you need to know how to share wealth. And that's very important. So yeah, I mean, getting Miftar as a co-founder was the second best thing that happened to us. The first best thing was obviously to raise money from the Indian Angel Network, Sanjeev Bichchandani, and not raise money too early, but grow, have an idea in place, create a business model so that you're funding ready. I mean, had we raised money before 2015, we were offered term sheet in 2011, 12. We said no because we were not funding ready. Yeah.
Guys, I request everyone to please mute themselves. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So we were not funding ready prior to 2015. Had we raised money then and not said a no to the term sheet that we got from the angels, I think we would have not been able to create a successful business model because we were not funding ready. We would have come under the pressure of investors. Keep one thing in mind, guys, that you never do business for the investors. You do business for the business, right? You have to be honest with the business. And the golden rule of that business is to excel that business and give maximum returns to the stakeholders. And that is when the investors benefit. So you are taking care of your investors, but don't do it only what is good for them. Do what is good for the business so that everyone benefits. And I think that's one thing that you need to know as an entrepreneur. You need to know how to say no with confidence. हम सबको हाँ बोलना आता है. Don't become a yes man. Learn to say no with confidence. That's one thing I've learned over the years as well. And I'm still learning. It's not easy. So yeah, 2017, we got 200 stores. We managed to raise money from Lighthouse funds. Next 2 years, entered the Bombay markets, Pune markets, Goa markets. Next 2 years, entered West India in a very big way. Again, I said, Delhi and Bombay were the most expensive real estate markets. So first round of funding entered Delhi, second round of funding entered Bombay. Grew the business in West India. And by 2019, we had got to 244 stores, got to a 110 crore top line. And that's when we attracted Tiger Global. We were at a run rate of 15 crores a month. Tiger Global, one of the pioneer funds globally, highly respected, known for tech investments. People could not imagine that Tiger Global is investing in a QSR business in India because they were only doing tech. But if you look at their background, they have invested in Domino's in the US, Burger King in the US. So they knew about QSR and what QSR does. And somewhere they feel that, we could become that version of India and go global. So I think our dreams was in sync. And Tiger Global came in 2019, September. Everything was hunky-dory. I think but till February 2020, everything felt wow. The business was booming. And suddenly comes March 2020 when you have the pandemic, right? 12 and a half years, you've never made losses, you've bootstrapped, plowed back profits, and April 2020, you see a loss of 6-7 crores in your books. 3,000 employees, tables have turned, tables continue to rotate. So what do you do? For the month of April, we were in a very bad state. Revenues came down to 1/10 of what it was, and out of a 350, close to 350 stores, I think some 63 stores were operational only for delivery. And that too, getting the employee coming to your store with the private transport was very difficult because there were no public transports. And all our stores in malls, in airports, in railway stations, in tech parks were shut, completely shut. Many high streets we could not open because we never had the manpower to commute and go and open those stores. Obviously, opening stores is important, but your team safety is also important. So first thing that you do, when you realize the things are bad, I think as a leader, you have to be very transparent. You have to instill confidence into your team. So, like I say, we have a team of 3,000 plus people. So I think in the month of April, we paid complete salary. But before we paid that salary, I went on record and spoke to my team where I said that, guys, times are very bad. We are not doing job cuts for the next 4-5 months, but we definitely have to do pay cuts. Because if we don't do pay cuts, everyone has to take in the pain for the larger gain of the organization. Otherwise, we are finished. So what is more important, survival, longevity, or, getting everything and letting go of the most. And everyone was in sync. Everyone felt that, as a team, when we are sharing the good times together, we need to share the bad times together. The good thing is that, we were transparent with everyone. We said there will be no job cuts for the next 4-5 months, and we actually did that. So that gave them a lot of confidence, a lot of comfort, peace of mind. And then we said, yaar, haath pe haath rakh ke baith ke to kuch hoga nahi. So we realized one thing, that April, May, the business was literally 1/10 of what it was. Now, what do? As a startup, you have to be agile, you have to be adaptive. So, like I say, adverse time calls for being diverse, it calls for being resilient. So we were like, yeah, what do we do next? So we were actually delivering real-time hot momos in 30-35 minutes to people. But if you would go to order essentials, you would get essentials in 24 to 48 hours. I mean, Big Basket was packed, Grofers was packed. So we said, yeah, why can't we spread our asset better? And how do we start, maybe create a Wow Momo Essentials? And why create a Wow Momo Essentials is because for the consumer, for your patrons, you're doing a service. We're in the service industry. It's about providing convenience to your customers. It's not a business line that we want to do for the long run, but definitely for the short run. But by doing that, you're doing two things. A, you're being visible in the consumer's mind. You're not going off. And B, you're doing something which makes your team feel that some action is happening, which is very important, right? Like I say, when times are bad, keep crawling, keep moving, but don't give up. So we launched a new business line called Wow Momo Essentials, whereby we started selling eggs, milk, bread, potatoes, onion, tomatoes, sanitary pads, condoms. We tied up with ITC, HUL. Kudos to my team. We were able to plan and execute this new business idea exactly in 16 days. We thought of it on the 13th of April, and by 29th of April, we were live. Next 3 months, this business became a profitable business for us. It gave us cash cows. It helped us to sweat the asset better. And it died its natural death on the 31st of July, which was meant to happen because this was never a core business. It was just a diversion for, reinventing yourself for the interim time. But this new business line for 3 months became a profitable business line. And it also made us look at things differently, approach things differently. And most importantly, it made the entire organization prove it to itself that, we are a startup which is willing to be agile, which is willing to be adaptive, and which is not scared from innovation. And I think that was a big boost to all of us. And once we saw the lockdown opening up post the 8th of June across cities, I think by October, Bombay also opened up, and we went full out. From 10% of the business in April, very grateful to God that in December 2020, we were clocking 80% of pre-COVID numbers. So the stores that were open in December last year and this year were clocking 80% of the numbers. The high street stores, the delivery business had boomed. So immediately after lockdown opening up, delivery business was 65%. Now it's come down to 45%. Before COVID, it was 25%. So the delivery business has gone up. People are ordering in. Now this is what a crisis period does. It justifies to you that your brand is respected. See, today, people are only ordering from places where they believe there's health and hygiene. Today, Wow Momo has a brand, has a goodwill. So that goodwill factor that we have built is making people order more and more. So our high street business has actually soared. There are many high street stores that are doing 120, 130% compared to pre-COVID numbers. They're doing better than pre-COVID numbers. Where we are struggling is with the malls, because malls were a cash cow for us earlier. Now people are not crowding in malls. Less people are going to malls. So the mall business is anything between 40 to 60%. But as a whole, we got back to 80%. We took tough calls to shut down 43 stores. We still have 54 stores not open because tech parks are not open. Many of the airports are not yet open. I mean, the stores are not open because the airport is not allowing full capacity to operate. Many of the railway stations are not allowing full capacity to operate. Our stores and metro stations are still shut. So yeah, that's how we got going. And we also opened 50 new stores, 60 new points of sale post lockdown. So नई store भी हमने खोला, हमने expand भी किया. And we also found a new way of expanding. We collaborated with Cafe Coffee Day and opened up shop and shop formats. Now, one big brand, which is the Coffee King, Cafe Coffee Day, another brand, Wow Momo. This was the first time in the history of India that two food brands are collaborating to sweat the asset better. So we opened shop and shop formats. Inside Cafe Coffee Day, we opened 20 of them, and they are still continuing. It was just a statement to make to my team and to myself that, we will find our own ways of expanding. Opening shop in Cafe Coffee Day was less expensive, less costly. We opened them during the lockdown in June and July, and it also gave us a new route to expand. And today they're profitable. So yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to think differently, and that's what we did. So I've always believed that, as an entrepreneur, any crisis you have to think differently. You don't have to get scared with it. You have to say कि मैं कैसे इस crisis को अपने advantage में use कर सकता हूँ, and convert that crisis to your opportunity, to your advantage, and go out there and fire. I think that's what we managed to do successfully, to be honest. And in the meanwhile, 2 years ago, I forgot to mention, we launched our second brand called Wow China, which is a Chinese QSR. So what we felt is that, we've not cracked the art of selling momos in India. What we have cracked is the art of, doing QSR business in India. So QSR is quick service restaurant, doing maximum throughput sales from smaller locations, and, have the right SOPs in place. And we said here, if you go to North India, after North Indian cuisine, you like Chinese. If you come to South India, after South Indian cuisine, you like Chinese. So although Chinese is number 2 in consensus, it's number 1 in preference across the country. And there is no branded Chinese QSR chain. I mean, you have the likes of mainland China, one of the brands that I really admire by Anjanda, but it's a fine dine or a casual dine format. It's not a QSR format. And we said there's a big space there. So wherever Wow Momo is doing well, in any mall or any high street location, we are trying to plant a Wow China beside it. So the market is already tested. And that's how you use your bandwidth, your resources better. And today, Wow China has more than 50 points of sale, doing phenomenally well, profitable. And even in the month of December, it was profitable. I mean, Wow Momo as a whole business could not be profitable because 350 plus stores, stores are, still opening up, not opening up, but Wow China got to profitability also. So yeah, I mean, very happy that in the month of December, we hit profits for the first time in this financial year. January also looks like being profitable. Let's keep fingers crossed for Feb and March. But yeah, that's been our journey. That's been our story. Today, something that I've done is the reason that I had to prepone this talk that I had at 12 is because all the 4 founders today, we have 3 founders now, and we have a chief marketing officer whom we will be onboarding as a co-founder very soon. We've decided to come together under one roof and strategize. So yeah, I mean, today I had to prepone that session because of that. I was in Chennai yesterday. I had to fly down to Calcutta last night late and do this session. Sorry for being late, but just too much on my plate today. But yeah, great interacting with you guys. When you're pitching tomorrow, keep one thing in mind, that you might have a great idea, a great concept, but you only get those 5 minutes to pitch and explain the investor that concept. So be prompt, be up to the point, know the key factors, and more importantly, have that confidence level, because people don't invest in your idea, they invest in you. They say ki bande mein kitna dam hai. So you have to know that how much that of that dam you have to go out there with conviction and let that investor know that, boss, I am $1 billion business in the making. Invest in me, invest your money in yourself to grow yourself. Trust me, guys, when investors invest in you, they don't do a favor on you, neither you do a favor on them. It's a very, very holistic relationship. It's more like a marriage, just that this marriage has to have a divorce so that the investor gets an exit and gets his alimony in terms of returns. But yeah, very important to get a like-minded investor, with someone you can gel well, you can talk freely, and trust me, guys. When I started Wow Momo, in 2008, the word startup was not a very sexy word. It was more about entrepreneurship. Today, the word startup, the word funding is a very sexy word, but never get into funding for the fun of it. Get into funding when you really need the money, because when you get the money, you're diluting equity. And if you can get debt, so even we have debt, and you feel your business can sustain debt, be very realistic to yourself. Debt is always more cheaper than equity. So value your equity. At the same time, don't be greedy and keep everything to yourself. Like I said, you need to share well to make wealth. So get good investors on board. Share wealth with your team, with your investors, because it's not it's not how much of the pie you have, it's how big the pie is. So whether you own 10% of a rupees 100 company, or you own 10% of a $1 billion company, that option you have to take and make. Okay, so all the best to you guys. I'll keep the floor open for any quick questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts, and your entire journey has been really inspiring to us, and I'm sure it'll be very inspiring to all the young entrepreneurs here as well. And yeah, the floor is open now for question. So we have one question in the chat from Manan. How did the model of shop and shop in CCD work?
So we opened our first shop in shop format in CCD in the month of June. Till now, we have 20 such outlets. Cumulatively, they are so the shop in shop format. What we've done is we've gone very smart with it. We've made a very smart cart, which is our own patented design. That cart has an inbuilt steamer, inbuilt fryer, inbuilt refrigerator. So you require one guy to man the cart. That's it, and up to a particular revenue. And if the revenue is very very high, then you require two people. So it's a very economic centric cart. We never expected the cart to have very high sales because when you're doing a shop in shop format, you are dependent on the walk-ins happening to that particular store. But that cart also became a multiple point of sale or multiple point of visibility on the app. When today everyone is using the app to order online, so it becomes an online store for you also. It becomes a physical store for you also. It's doing reasonably well. Some carts are doing very very well, and some are below par. But I think it's still early days because we all are, reviving from the lockdown. I think December was a phenomenal month for us. Month of December, the cart business, if I were to take 20 carts, were profitable, and we are looking at expanding with Cafe Coffee Day. The best part is that the cart, if it does not do well, it's a plug and play model. You can pick up the cart and put it somewhere else. The only cost that goes for a loss is the transportation cost. It's not cheap, the transportation cost. It's quite heavy. The cart is very heavy, but it's made in a way where there is zero capex wastage. So it's a very profitable model, and by God's grace, it's doing really well. Yeah.
So I have another chat in my personal chat asking that a major hurdle that people face, young entrepreneurs face, is the element of uncertainty while starting up. So throughout your journey, you have faced so many hurdles. And how did you deal with this uncertainty of maybe the success that you've got?
I think entrepreneurs perform the best when they're under pressure. And by pressure, I mean not pressure to fail, but pressure to perform. I think pressure gets the best out of us, most of us. And to be very honest, uncertainty is always there, right? In the sense that even now, to be very honest, when I'm doing this chat with you, I'm very uncertain about a few things. I am anxious. I'm worried about a few things. At the same time, I'm enjoying my journey. Uncertainty is always there, a part of life. I would always advise guys to, go out there as early as possible because see, when I started Vamuma at 21, I had no fear of failure. Till 21, when I was in college, my parents were taking care of my expenses. And honestly, I had no fear of failure. I felt if I fail, yes, I would feel ashamed, but why should I feel ashamed? That's the thing. That's the mindset that is now changing in the country. I mean, today, if you go to the West, people actually admire entrepreneurs who haven't done well but are still doing well in life in a job. I have hired so many people who have maybe tried to be an entrepreneur and failed, but are doing a great job in my organization because they understand the value of ownership. So yeah, I mean, start early is my one advice. You have no fear of failure. And number two, don't listen to what people say around you. When I began Wow Momo, people would say, tell my dad. My dad's friend would tell him, a few relatives, that aapka beta momo bechega, momo kaise bechega? And my dad said, why not? He'll make a brand. My dad was confident with me. He knew that I could do it. My parents are very supportive. My family are very supportive. So I'm very grateful to that. And try and get your family, your friends in your side to support you. I'm sure you'll get a lot of backing. If friends don't support you, family will. If family don't, friends will. Either one definitely will. And if no one will, I will for sure. So make me your friend. But to be very honest, be realistic to yourself. First you have to know that whether you're capable of, you have it in you to become an entrepreneur or not, and be very honest to yourself. I'm not giving rosy talk here. Not everyone has it in them to become an entrepreneur. It requires a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifices, diligence, determination. अगर आप में दम है और आप में, see, people have different goals in life. Some people want to have a good job, comfortable life, family life, and that's absolutely fair. It's good to have it. I know so many of my friends who have a highly paid job are being able to have the right work-life integration. I don't call it work-life balance because you can't balance work-life. You can't work for 12 hours and sleep. Have family life for 12 hours. You have to have work-life integration. But I know so many of my friends who are doing very well in life. They are working in the best of corporates, with the Fortune 500 companies, and working very well. But maybe don't have it in them to, they themselves say they don't have it in them to be an entrepreneur, but they're happy doing a good job. And by doing a job also, you're being enterprising. You're not being enterprising, because entrepreneur does not mean just owning a business. You are helping someone else's business to grow. You are being enterprising. Today, for me, even an Uber and Ola guy is an entrepreneur, because he's running his own car, own vehicle. And it's up to him, how does he attract more customers? There was this Uber guy in Bangalore who gave me his visiting card, and I became so comfortable with him, because for all my meetings I would use him, that whenever I would land in Bangalore, I would call him up, and I would use him for my entire stay in Bangalore for 3-4 days. Why? Because he gave me his visiting card. He said, "Sir, if you ever need a car, call me." So he was enterprising. Had he not said that, I would have not called him, right? I would have used him like any other Uber driver. So I think everyone has it in them to become enterprising. Now it's up to you at what level you want to become enterprising, whether you want to start your own business, be a startup and become enterprising, or you want to become enterprising by being working somewhere else. But yeah, not everyone has that risk-taking ability. So be very honest to yourself. If you feel you don't have it in you, give yourself time to come to that conclusion. But keep fighting. Keep pushing yourself to get there. At the same time, if you feel you have it in you, start the sooner the better, because you want to put in maximum time for your own business's productivity. I have a lot of respect for people who are getting a very highly paid or comfortably paid or a secure job and leave their jobs and start entrepreneurship, because it requires a hell lot of guts. And I know so many people who are doing it, and so many people who are successful, and so many people who are not successful. But guys, it requires a lot of guts. So kudos to them. And that uncertainty is always there. You have to be very realistic to your idea. Don't get very emotional to your idea. Listen to everyone. Don't get irritated by what everyone has to say. People will have different points of views. Don't get irritated. Listen to everyone. You never know what anyone is saying and what will come and strike you when. I personally listen to everyone. It's very good to be a good speaker, and I know I'm a very good speaker, but it's also more important to be a good listener. So be a good listener. That's one more thing that entrepreneurship has taught me. Be a good listener. Listen to everyone and do what your heart says, but be very honest to your heart. Be very honest to the practicality of your idea and business. Don't get emotionally attached to your business, right? So I'll be very honest. I know I want to run this business. I want to make it a global brand, a global chain. But I am the CEO, I'm the co-founder. If I become emotional to it and continue remaining the CEO in the long run and not hire someone who's better than me, then I'll be an idiot, because I'm becoming emotional to my business. So maybe I can continue to be the founder, but if I feel the need is to to hire someone better, who's more capable than me at the right time, I will do it. And trust me, guys, I've already started looking at creating a second line and third line, because I believe as an entrepreneur, I can use my brain and my mind to create things. Right. So, and I need to create a team, and my business has to be something which should run without me, without the founders. It should be a pilot mode run business. So, at times we get very emotional with our ventures, and we don't let go. It's very important to let go at the right time, and that timing is completely your call. But don't delay it. Don't do it too early also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your guidance on this. And in the interest of time, I think we can.
In the chat, do we have any other quick question?
Questions?
How you handle the high competition in Momo?
Yes, sir.
Handle the entry barrier. I think handling high competition was product quality. I think when we entered Wow Momo, you would only get chicken and veg momos, and that too, the chicken momos would be full of onions. It would not be full of chicken, and the veg momos would be full of cabbage. I think we focused on our product. You people liked it, and you people made us a brand. There's someone else who says that they're a big fan of us. I think that's Miran. Thank you, Miran. You people make us what we are. So thank you so much. For us, our consumers are our brand celebrity. Trust me, guys, when we do a new store opening, we invite our customers to come and cut the ribbon. And then we provide a lot of free hampers to that customers for the whole year. So that customer actually gets free momos in that store for the whole year. So yeah, customers are our biggest celebrity. I don't think at the moment we require a Virat Kohli. Huge respect for Virat Kohli. I think he's one of the best Indian captains and the best Indian cricketers. And the next guy to not replace, but to give India the version of Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin was my role model, by the way. Very diligent. Could not play as good cricket as him, but learned hard work and diligence from him. So yeah, customers are the biggest brand celebrities, and we should celebrate them. When you decide to expand the second LOB, line of brand, Wow China, Momo China. It's not Momo China, it's Wow China. What is important parameter which help you decide on expanding? Nothing here. I think the important parameter to help you expanding was the opportunity in the market, the free space in the market, the dearth in the market. And we just went out there and felt that, there is a great opportunity to build a great brand. And we went and did it. So yeah, that is what it is. Anyone else, if I missed out, I'm very sorry, but have to now rush. It's 11:03. Great interacting with you guys. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on LinkedIn. My email ID is sagardaryani@wowmomo.co.in. I'll just type it here. You might not get a reply from me immediately. But yeah, I mean, just keep mailing me and be persuasive. And I think I will test your I'll test your level of persuasion to really get a reply from me. And yeah, I'll try my best to help you. Will not overcome it because I'm not able to help myself most of the times. But yeah, I mean, that's the challenge of being an entrepreneur. And thank you so much. Thank you, Jaideep, for having me here. God bless you guys. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and hope you had a nice session.
Inform them that the next session.
Hello, everyone. So we have our next session by Mr. Thulsiraj Ravila, and the Director Operations of Arvind Eye Care Systems. So I invite Nikhil to take over. Thank you.
Yes. So good morning, everyone. I think Devi Vijay sir is also here. And Balram sir would be joining shortly. So
Devi Vijay.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
Ma'am, you want to have a couple of words before I begin the session?
no, please
Thulsiraj
go
sir?
ahead. I'm very happy to be joining. And let me just turn on my video.
Yes,
Yes. So thank you, Mr. Thulsiraj, for letting me know about the talk. I'm very much looking forward to listening to this, and thank you, Nikhil and team, for organizing this and giving us all an opportunity to hear about Arvind. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks. I'll let you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot, ma'am. That's a pleasure. So let's roll out the session. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the speaker series of Genesis, the flagship e-summit of IIM Calcutta. The theme for this year is Imagining a New Tomorrow. Transition to online medium has given us a unique opportunity to invite eminent speakers across industry domains. It also has led to tremendous participation so far from various parts of the country. In this session, we have with us one of the pioneers of the eye care industry, Mr. Thulsiraj Ravila. He is one of the founding members of Arvind Eye Care System, currently the Executive Director of Lions Arvind Institute of Community Ophthalmology, as well as the Director Operations for Arvind Eye Care System. He is the founder president of Vision 2020, the Right to Sight India, the board member of Seva Foundation, USA, Arvind Eye Foundation, USA, Acumen Fund, USA, Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, our own institute, Indian Institute of Health Management and Research, Bangalore. He is the president of Aurolab Trust and trustee and treasurer for Dhan Foundation. From a small village in southern India to building a social empire like Arvind Eye Care System, it's been a magnificent journey so far, sir. We welcome you with all our hearts. The topic for today's session is Insights from an Entrepreneurial Lens, Journey of Arvind Eye Hospital. Let's hear it from Thulsiraj sir himself. The floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to share the screen. Let me take a. So you need to allow me to share.
Yes, sir. I have given you the access.
Okay. Okay, you're able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
you're able
super,
to see it.
super. Yeah, first, thank you very much, Nikhil and the team for this wonderful opportunity to share what we have done. We are a non-profit, and we kind of grew organically. And then we have come a long way from where we started. So I thought there could be some lessons I could share, kind of using an entrepreneurial lens. And this is all about Aravinda Hospital and its journey. So in terms of relevance, I think for those of the listeners from the healthcare sector, there could be some very direct translation or application. And for those who are in the other non-healthcare or product line or something, I think there is still some relevance, but you may have to go deeper into the principles or concepts. And then I plan to talk for about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, and leave some time for questions. And then I'm also planning to do this as a series of mini or micro cases as I go through each of the insights or lessons. So the very first one I want to talk about is effectiveness of any organization, especially healthcare organization, depends on closing the loop. By this, I mean there is a need, and then you close the loop when you have fulfilled that need. And in between, there are many things, which would come in the way. And that's one important lesson that we have learned. And incidentally, all these lessons that I'm mentioning is all in hindsight. So the first incident that I want to talk to you about is in the early days of the organization. Given the purpose of the organization to eliminate needless blindness, we felt it necessary to go into the community, screen patients, and for those who are blind due to cataract, it can be cured through an operation. So we would offer the operation free. So these are patients who felt they could not see, so they presented themselves at an eye camp. We diagnosed them and we told them that you have this problem, and then a surgery would restore vision, and that we would do it free of cost. And the ironic thing was very few patients actually showed up at the hospital. We knew we didn't have sophisticated record keeping in those days, but we knew that we had advised literally thousands of patients. And we were not seeing that many coming to the hospital. Not even a few hundred of those advised actually came. So we really were intrigued because in our mind, it didn't make sense because the patients sought help and we told them what it is and what is to be done. And we're also offering it for free. So we did a small research study to investigate what is why patients were not coming. So we picked up at random a number of patients who are advised cataract surgery through these camps. And then we ventured out to contact them, and we could contact about 80 plus of those patients. And then what we discovered was less than 15% had the surgery over a period of 18 months or 2 years since the time of advising. And then we looked into their vision. These numbers may not make sense, but then what this is telling is that most patients had really poor vision or literally blind. And then the irony was that most of them wanted to get operated. So this didn't make sense. These people are handicapped, blind, and they want to get operated, just not showing up. So we dug a little deeper in the research to find out the reasons for not getting the cataract surgery. And it turned out that it was largely around cost that would be there for transport, because those days we offered only the surgery free. Patients had to come on their own, and those days they had to stay for a week, which was the standard across the world. And during the week, they had to fend for themselves for food and things like that. And then because they were blind, somebody had to accompany them, some able person, obviously, which means that person also lost wages. And so all these things came up in the research study. And then we had this big realization, that us giving it free, not charging for surgery, does not mean it is free to the patient. They still have to incur a lot of expenses to do this. So out of this came certain recommendations. That by providing free food and transportation, you could address a lot of the economic barriers, and then providing transportation with escort, with some amount from our side, taking care of the travel, can address a lot of the social barriers. And then we can also, by talking to the patients and the family members, we can overcome certain amount of fear or reluctance if it exists. And then this got folded into our design. So soon after the study, we decided that it doesn't make sense just to offer free surgery. So we said we'll also enable the patient by offering free transport and stay, food, and all those barriers that we did. This was way back in 1980, 81. And in fact, that study was possibly one of the very, very first studies to look at social barriers to healthcare access. And then more recently, this has become the standard across the country and pretty much across the world. And then most programs now adopt this. And then the impact of this was quite magical for us, because I remember the very first camp that we did, wherein we gave transport and things like that. The immediate acceptance went up to 70%. That is 70% of those advised surgery immediately came once these barriers were removed. So it kind of goes to show that we really did a very poor design initially for the first 3 or 4 years of our existence. This is another instance, very similar around glasses. So in our outreach, we do a more comprehensive camp, and even for people with refractive errors, those who need glasses, we would do the refraction and we gave them a prescription. And again, we found we were not sure. We were doubtful if people are buying the glasses. So quite recently, we did an operations research study, and then wherein we had one stream. We had 3 streams. I'll just talk about 2 streams in this. Now, one stream just got a prescription, and another stream got the prescription and also the option to buy the glasses right at the campsite immediately, where we had a setup which I'll show momentarily. And then we went 3 months later to the households of those patients who had received prescriptions. The ones who got just the prescription, less than 25% were actually wearing the glasses. They had bought the glasses and wearing them. But the ones who got the glasses right at the campsite, that cohort, about 80% of them were wearing glasses. So the difference is kind of like night and day. And again, this goes back to design of how we provide services. So this is the way we have been doing this in campsite. We would take a portable cubicle for doing the refraction. And then once a prescription was given to a person, he or she would choose a frame of their choice. And then we had to do a lot of inventory planning by predicting the demand and spread of powers. And we would take an inventory of ready-made lenses. And then all that we had to do was kind of cut it to the shape of the frame and fit it. And then the person can try it on right away. And if there's anything to be changed, again, we can address it. But basically, they got the service immediately. And then what this really meant was we had saved that lady at least 300, 400, or 500 rupees, which is the cost of getting the glasses. because these are in places where there'll be no optical shop. So they have to travel to a nearby town to place the order, go back after a few days to get the glass. And if it is not ready, make a third trip, or if it is not correct, rectification. So the number of trips, and the cost was quite significant. So again, the basic lesson that we learned was, in terms of uh, because the design gets affected, whether it is healthcare or otherwise, from drawing boundaries. Every organization, we unconsciously draw boundaries, saying that this is what we will do, this is what the customer will do, or someone else will do. So fundamentally, I think to the extent that we can broaden or widen those boundaries and own the problems, to that extent, I think the design gets better, at least from this context. And I can recognize this would be the same even for someone selling a product or whatever, from a sales call to making sure that they actually got the product or service. So the more we widen the boundary, more we own the problems, I think more successful we become in doing this. And it's also important to realize a lot of the revenues also accrue by closing the loop. Because if you don't do that, all the effort that went into up to that point of time really is actually wasted if finally the service isn't provided. So the second lesson that we learned quite early on, originally intuitively, was to focus on non-customers. That is people who are not still accessing care, but they would benefit by it. And because our purpose was to eliminate needless blindness, we had a kind of a focus that happened organically on that. And that too we found to be extremely useful perspective to have. Like for instance, our reach into the non-customers was through iCams. And then they used to be quite busy, like you see in this picture. Sometimes we even have several thousand patients come for these iCams. But then when you have a focus on non-customers, you tend to ask a question at some point of time, like, is this good enough? And because we were suspecting that this may not be reaching out to everyone who's in need of an eye care. So we did a fairly large study, covering the entire state, to find out how good are these eye camps. Wherein we went into the areas where a camp was held, then studied the population to find out how many people had a need for eye care, and then of them, how many came to the eye camp. And we were quite, we knew it was not 100%, but we didn't recognize it to be as low as 7%. Because at 7% reach, we are just not going to achieve our goal of eliminating needless blindness. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And this is what we came up with. We basically took a population that is typically covered by an ICAM, which will be anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000. And then we put in a permanent facility where there will be a technician. But we invested quite a lot to make sure that the quality didn't suffer because we had only a technician and not an ophthalmologist. We deployed technology like telemedicine and things like that. And this is how a typical vision center works. Somebody walks in, they pay a fee of 20 rupees, which is good for 3 consultations. Then they receive a complete eye exam, very much like he or she would get if they went and saw an eye doctor. They check for glasses. We also use that to check for diabetes, hypertension. We measure intraocular pressure to look for glaucoma, do a detailed eye exam, take image of the retina. And all of this was entered onto a electronic medical record, which was on the cloud. And then there is a direct consultation with the doctor in real time. In this case, the doctor looks at the chart, listens to the technician, talks to the patient, and then finally decides that what is needed is a pair of glasses. And the prescription is sent by the doctor, which gets printed out locally. And then locally, this closing the loop concept again is in play. Now we have a stock of frames, lenses, and the patient tries out several. She's happy with one. Now she buys them. So you can recognize the power of this design. Somebody local in a village gets top quality eye care for a very low cost, and for with very minimal effort. So as a result, this network is now growing. We now have actually 85 vision centers. And then last year, that is a pre-COVID year, we saw close to 700,000 visits we handled. And then we also have become very much denominator oriented, looking at what proportion of the patients are we covering. And we recognize these centers which are there permanently working every day, 6 days a week, are able to reach literally everyone in need of eye care within 4 to 5 years. So this is probably one of the very few examples of the holy grail of universal health, in this case, universal eye health. So again, I think it is recognizing that you have much greater control if you can drive the market, rather than being market driven. Market driven is kind of a reactive, kind of a dynamic. I think you'll always be one step ahead of your competition or whatever, when you get onto a market driving mode, and that's what was happening in this context. And now many people are now adopting this notion of permanent vision centers, and we are perpetuating it in a very, very big way in Bangladesh and in many other countries. And the third lesson that we learned, somewhat based from the first example I gave also, is looking at the cost from the patient perspective, and then designing our services from that perspective. Because like I said earlier, the default perspective to cost when it comes to care is the hospital charges. And then once we realize that there are many other costs that the patient or a customer incurs, the cost of the accompanying person, lost wages, transport, food, and all of that stuff, to the patient, that is the total cost. And if a design can address at minimizing this total cost, then you have a much more cost efficient or a much better value addition to the customer. So that translated in our design of not having appointments, because eye care is an elective discipline. It is not by default an emergency situation. So by not having an appointment, the people are able to add on a hospital visit to a visit to Madurai or Coimbatore, where they're coming for whatever other purpose. Now, if it was an appointment, they would have to come only for that particular activity. And we made sure there are no waiting lists, so people don't spend unnecessary time. And we are striving hard to complete the care cycle on a single visit, so they don't have to come multiple times. And also do it at appropriate levels. Now with vision centers and secondary level hospitals in place, we can take care of a lot of the requirements right at their home, near their homes. And then we also came with a pricing process wherein the patients can choose whether they want it completely free, which means they wait for a camp to happen, or they come to the hospital and go to the free section where they get at a very, very subsidized cost. On the hospital front also, we did many things to make sure our costs are controlled. And so there's a lot of focus on efficiency and quality. And contrary to normal belief, I think doing good quality consistently actually reduces cost quite significantly. And then creatively dealing with the bottlenecks as they occur. All of these have reduced costs for us. And then this is a brief video where you hear our founder's voice.
Got all the
simplicity of confidence. Doctor, whatever you say, I accept it. An implicit faith in you, and then you respond. Here is an old lady who has got so much faith in me. I must do my best for it. Now, how am I going to train myself to do perfection?
So this is another example of looking at caregiving from the patient's perspective, not from our perspective. So cost and care, the more we look at it from the patient perspective, tend to become a lot more customer centric. And then another important thing, I think is true for all organizations, is to be on a continuous path of learning. And I'll just give certain examples of how we have gone about it. We learned fair bit from one organization called as Supercuts. I don't know whether any of those who are listening would recognize what Supercuts is. It's actually a chain of hair salons. Now, there are more than 2,700 of them across USA. And they also seem to have gone for high volume, no appointments, and they guarantee consistent quality. Now you just walk in and you'll get a good haircut. So this really intrigued us because haircutting is also a service, very much like providing healthcare, which is again a service, which requires skill, which requires people delivering it. It is not a machine doing it. Now, so how do they bring about this level of consistency in skills? So we learned some from them in terms of how they codify and do that. We learned a lot by studying McDonald's, because there are 17,000, 20,000 outlets across the world. And then if people have been to a McDonald's in different locations, they would recognize it is very much akin to buying a toothpaste. It's very consistently same quality. And how do they achieve this? And also, not in our context, but in the Western context, it is very affordably priced as well. So we got a lot of insights into standardization and scale and efficiency by studying McDonald's. And similarly, probably the safest industry is airlines. And safety there doesn't come through technology or by accident, but it is all through process, which is driven a lot by checklists. So we have a number of checklists within our patient care, patient flow on the quality front, on the error front, so much so that in spite of doing very, very large volume, our outcomes tend to be 3 to 4 times better than what is typically seen in US or in UK. So all of this requires, in my mind, developing a mindset that there's always a better way of doing things. Because the minute you believe you are the best, then you're shutting down this learning opportunity, which really means one has to build a culture of humility within the organization. And this is, I think, extremely important DNA in organization that all entrepreneurs should build if they want their venture or the company to sustain over a long period of time. And then again, it's important to constantly strive beyond the realm of possibility. And I think by default, all of us are programmed to do things which is possible. And this is important because I think only when we step out of the realm of possibility do more resources come into being, more capabilities get built. And in our own case, we have a number of examples, but I'm going to show another non-medical example. This is about Roger Bannister. He was a doctor. He broke or he ran a mile within 4 minutes on the 6th of May, 1954. Now, till that point of time, everybody felt that it is not humanly possible. There were medical arguments that human capacity is is limited to that. But once he broke that, then within few days, within less than a month and a half, another person broke it, and subsequently over 1,300 people have broken or bettered that record. So this is how capability gets built up, and this is one such example. We ventured into manufacturing, sort of a backward integration, but not for the typical strategic purpose of backward integration. When the technology changed of implanting a lens inside the eye, which gave a far superior quality of vision to patients, we recognized that that was affordable only to a few paying patients and to zero patients who didn't have the means. So we were having another philosophical issue on our hands of equity in care, which was counter to our values. So our negotiations with the suppliers to drop the price, which then was about $100, and we were wanting it for $10. This was way back in 89, 90, in that period. And then there was no meeting ground. So we didn't even have a chance to even have a conversation with these companies. So that's when we decided that we will make the lenses on our own. And you can recognize we had zero capabilities for doing this. We were a small eye hospital in the rural town of Madurai, and we were venturing to make something state of the art, which was held only in the US that time. Only few companies in the US were making intraocular lenses. We ventured out. We, of course, didn't do ground up research or anything. We basically bought the technology, adapted it to our conditions for mass production. And in the last 25 plus years, our lab has grown tremendously. I mean, we started off with lenses. We did produce the first lens in February of 1992 and sold it for $10. And of quality comparable, actually better than what was in the West, and that was independently validated by the US FDA, who tested these lenses for whatever reason. They got some lenses and tested them, and we happened to see the report. So today, Oro Lab has about 12% of the global market in terms of volume, but we play by design only in developing countries. We are not there in the more developed markets like USA, Canada, or in the Western Europe. So I think this striving beyond the possibility, I think really happens when the focus shifts on what is not done or what yet needs to be done. And again, the default DNA of most organizations focus on achievements of what they have done or what they have achieved. They're number one in the market, or they have X percentage of market share, or whatever it is. So that achievement doesn't help you to go beyond the capabilities. But I think there's always a lot more needs to be done, and the focus on that moves us along. And this again has been a deep insight for us. And finally, we recognize that what really helps an organization and an individual to grow is to have a higher purpose beyond one's own self. So within Aravind, our purpose was not really about having a big hospital or becoming large or having a big balance sheet or whatever, but largely around can we get rid of one form of human suffering, blindness. So that was our goal, and do it not only in our backyard, but try to make it happen pretty much all over the world. So that has been our higher purpose. So this is what is, I think, I'm not, so I'm just going to see the impact of these mindsets or these lessons on us. In 1976, when we started, it was in a rented house with 11 beds. And today we are a much, much larger network. We have 7 large hospitals, each of which say between 1,000 to 3,000 patients per day. We have 7 secondary level hospitals. 6 community eye clinics staffed by doctors, and a rapidly growing network of vision centers, what we call as primary eye care centers. We have 84 now, and then I think by end of this year we'll have 100 of them. On a typical day, we would see between 13 to 15,000 patients through this network, do about 1,600 to 2,000 surgeries. Now, number of outreach camps, which now is at a hold due to COVID. And then we also become a major training center as well. So a lot of training activities also happen. So we are covering the entire Tamil Nadu, a little bit Pondicherry as well. And we're just now venturing into Andhra Pradesh with the first hospital coming up in Tirupati. Last year, that is the pre-COVID year, we handled 4.6 million outpatient visits, over 500,000 surgical and laser procedures, over 700,000 glasses dispensed, and close to half of them were either free or provided at a steeply subsidized cost. This, people say, is probably the largest volume of eye care provision anywhere. And we continue to grow. And again, I think this is because of the way, the mindset that I described earlier. And then, as I said, we're also a significant training program. We do a lot of, we basically fundamentally share. We become more like an open source organization. So whatever we learn, either on the clinical side or on the management side, we offer them through training. And we do this quite aggressively. Close to 7,000 people have been trained from probably across 70, 80 countries. And similarly for non-clinical training as well, because we recognize that organization management is as important as clinical expertise. So this is a significant part of our training as well. And then also on research, because when you're handling such high volumes, we feel we're morally obliged to also derive lessons through research studies. And last year we had, again, thanks to COVID, we had a big jump in the number of research publications. We've had close to 300 research publications, probably more than any other organization. And then we've also been very proactively working with other eye care providers, other eye hospitals across many countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. We have worked with 350 plus eye hospitals, and each of these engagements spans 2 to 3 years, some even longer, of working with them to make them become more efficient, better quality, become financially viable. And this has been an ongoing work. Financially, again, we recognize that if you're self-reliant, then you can call the shots, you can decide on your own destiny and trajectory. And that we have remained from day one. And as the volumes and the price points went up, the revenues and the margins also increased. As a non-profit, all the margin is plowed back into growth and development. So finally, I think this way of working has possibly allowed us to grow in what we do, as well as expand into other areas, manufacturing, research, training, and all of that. And all of this, I think, has been possible because of the founder's vision and the DNA that he put in place. And he did all of this after his retirement, Dr. Venkateswamy, between 76 when he retired, and then 2006 when he passed away. In those intervening 30 years, he really built the organization with these qualities and capabilities. So I'll stop with this and be open for any questions and interactions.
Yes, sir. So the floor is open to questions. We have a question from Harish Kumar. Could you give us some insights on the collaborative project with Google on integrating AI for diagnosing diabetic retinopathy?
Sure, yeah. So we have been on a fair cutting edge of technology. So I think we came to the attention of many people, including Google and others. And in fact, Google founder Larry Page visited us in 2007 or 8 and spent a few days with us. So we've had a long-standing relationship. This specific work that we are doing is it is kind of both ways. I think Google recognized they have this tremendous strength in image processing, and many of you would have used that competence. You identify and say this is Nikhil, and then you can pick out Nikhil from hundreds of pictures. So this image recognition has been one of Google's strength, and lot of ophthalmology, lot of eye care is visual, in the sense you see and you interpret. And of course, there are some measurements which are not visual, but a lot of it is visual. And diabetic retinopathy is one such condition wherein you interpret a retinal image to find out if there is damage caused by diabetes on the retina, which we call as diabetic retinopathy. So that is the work that we have done. And what I think where we are now is that we have a very successful product of the algorithm can, within about 20 to 25 seconds, it can read an image and then give a result saying that is there diabetic retinopathy or not, what severity, and kind of a general advice as to be what is to be done. And then this has been tested against gold standard, which would be a retina specialist looking at the thing. In fact, multiple retina specialists. And then what they call as the area under the curve in terms of agreement, it's like over 97%. And then consistency wise, it is far, far better than multiple ophthalmologists looking at. So this is now ready for deployment. It is in beta testing in our primary eye care centers. So what we're struggling now with is in trying to make, because this depends upon the quality of image. So the technology can do it. Now we are struggling to make sure that we are able to get consistently adequate quality of images. So standardization of cameras, techniques, all of that is happening. And simultaneously, Google is also playing with the algorithm to see whether it can deal with a broader quality range of images. Today it can deal with images of certain quality and better. They're trying to also expand on that. So that's where it stands now. And I think quite soon this will become a cloud service. It's already a cloud service. I think it should be available for anyone to use. I have no clue as to how Google would look at it from a commercial perspective. Right now, we know that technology has come that far, and this is going to open up similar thing for many, many, many other conditions in eye care and beyond.
Excuse me, sir. I have a follow-up question on that. How much was the percentage of accuracy you got? So, like, will range diabetic retinopathy by various levels, like mild, moderate, severe, proliferative diabetic retinopathy? So, how much was the accurate percentage for like the ones that have been run by traditional ophthalmologists and versus the AI? And also, one more question, sir. How are you planning to deploy this? Are you planning to put fundus photography machine all over different parts of India, and so that people can just come and visit and have their image diagnosed using AI, or should a technician be present there?
So there is a publication on this, which is on public domain, and I believe the accuracy agreement is 97% plus. No, so it works pretty well. And it also gives the grading as well. So the agreement is at the grading level. No, and of course, I think there'll be a high agreement at the extremes of proliferative diaberetinopathy or no diaberetinopathy. I think there'll be a high agreement. And there's also very high agreement in between as well. So in my mind, I think it is ready to be rolled out. Once we sort out the issues around the image quality and things like that. So in terms of rolling out, I don't think we are going to be owning the process. I think quite a lot of it will be done by Google in terms of giving it as a service. But I think what we will own is to kind of promote amongst physicians and diabetologists about this technology, because this now allows them to give that much better service to their own patients. Because today the protocol is, if a diabetologist finds a new diabetic, he or she must advise them to go and get a retinal eye exam with an eye specialist. It never happens. No, the truth is, it never happens unless it is mandated, like in UK and few other countries. No, so those patients often end up quite late and often blind as well. No, so today that can be completely addressed. And I think there'll also be a financial incentive for the diabetologist to buy a camera. I mean, they buy a lot of other equipment. So this is another equipment that they can buy. And then this technology would completely remove the dependence on an ophthalmologist. So they can take an image, upload it to the cloud, get a reply back and tell the patient what it is. No, and then because I think less than, if they do it early enough on all patients, less than 10% of the patients will need to go to an eye doctor for intervention or if it is doubtful. No, so I think that's how this is going to play out, and I think we'll play some role, but I think the ophthalmic community as a whole, I think, will play a larger role, and so will technology. And Google is not the only one doing this. There are other players also doing this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So our next question is from Jaydeep. So one of the articles mentioned that Dr. Venkateswamy got the idea from Ford's assembly line model. So when we draw analogies from a totally different industry, how does a startup make sure that the analogy is feasible in our industry that we are operating?
Any analogy or this kind of processes in different industry, there are two dimensions to any of these things. Now, one dimension is detail. No, other dimension is the underlying principle or concept. Okay. So I think once you can make the distinction, then adoption becomes easy. I mean, like the examples I gave as well, about a chain of haircutting salons or McDonald's or Ford. No, I think at the detail level, there is no meeting ground. No, we are not into French fries or cutting hairs. No, but then once you go down to the principles of how they're making it happen. Now, if you take Ford assembly line, I think fundamental to them would be balancing the flow. Balancing so that at every different stages, that has to be done step after step. It also goes down to kind of how do you break down building a car into smaller components. Then how do you kind of train people to do those smaller components? So that principle is applicable to us or to any. In our case, the way it was applied was, okay, if you want to do an eye examination, this is all the work that is involved. So then we kind of broke it down into micro pieces. And then we kind of pulled out all the pieces that are purely skill or repetitive where no judgment is required. That we said we can maybe train someone to do that because they just have to do it and they don't need to have that that 8 or 10 years of medical knowledge base as a doctor, as a specialist to interpret that result. They only have to. So we have nurses who will measure the vision, who will measure the refractive error, measure the field of vision, measure or do a fundus photography or the more advanced diagnostics or give a refractive error. So all those are measurements. All those are done by technicians. So this is how I think how you translate an analogy into your own setting. So you need to have the insight or wisdom to go down to what is the principle on which they're building this. And today, given today's literature and what is out there, all of it is already decoded in my mind.
Understood, sir. So
But
next question.
let me just amplify a little bit more. But having said that, there's another third component which I forgot to mention. It is detail, it is principle, and it is the organizational culture and value system, which is never visible. A good example is Toyota production system. There must be literally a million articles about TPM. And then it is like an open book. So one would think everything about Toyota is known, but then it's very difficult to replicate what Toyota does. Because I think beneath the principle and the details, there is also the Toyota culture, which is very difficult to, not that they'll be hiding it, either even it's not visible to them, I would say. They can't give it away. So one has recognized that element as well. So if it doesn't work as well in a different setting or in a different industry, then it would mean that in one of the three, there has been inadequate translation.
Yes, sir. So there's a question from Isha from the PPT. So if we look at the trend chart of paid patients versus non-paid patients over the year, it is moving closer to 50%. So any reason of the direction of movement in that direction? And there is a similar question, a connecting question posted by Ansh. So let me just check it. Yeah. Can a startup find a balance between being socially responsible and commercially viable? So,
okay, to the first part of the question about the trend, that's a very perceptive observation. It is actually more, it has come from about 70% free to now about 50% this thing. I think it has happened due to multiple things. One, I know for sure that we're not putting brakes in any area because within the hospital, the paid and free section are completely not controlled. Like anybody can walk into any section that they want. In fact, there's a famous story of Abdul Kalam taking care in the free section because he didn't have cash. This was before he became the president, and he wrote about it in his own book, Wings of Fire. So it is completely unscreened. They can choose. So that continues to be the case. And we still do a large number of outreach and, if anything, increasing it. And also this vision centers, which is very low cost. But I think what is happening are two things. Now, one, I think the economy is definitely getting better. All of us recognize that. And second, the health government paid very little attention till the last 4 or 5 years or less than a decade. And now they are being, I think, pulled up by the international benchmarks in the community that how poor India is doing on the health front. We're sending out rockets and things like that, but on the health front, we are often compared to sub-Saharan Africa. Infant mortality rate, MMR, and things like that. So that is, I think, brought about some change in the government. Now you have many government-sponsored, supported healthcare programs, including the insurance, Ayushman Bharat, and different names. RSBY was there in the previous government, and many state governments have health insurance schemes, which is all, and they're all primarily targeted towards the poor people. So a lot of them have now the financial wherewithal, and it so happens that our price points are same or sometimes even less than what this insurance pays. So we kind of bring them in as paying patients. No, so a patient may come into the free section, some surgery is advised, and then his insurance pays. No, then he becomes a paying patient in our bookkeeping, in our record keep. No, so I think that probably is a significant reason as to why that shift is happening. Yeah. And the third question about advice about being socially conscious and being, so I think that should be the design. I think I somehow feel that not being socially conscious, I think you will tend to become manipulative, and at some point it will not work for you, any industry. So I think it is good to have that as a conscious design parameter. So it does not mean that you got to do things for free, but then as long as you have a mindset of being able to make sure that everyone who needs that service gets it appropriately. And I think it will open up very many different thought processes. And I'm pretty sure many of you must have been told about the case of the shampoo sachets, ₹1 per sachet. When that guy came, he became a multi-millionaire, with that concept. He was doing a social good, better hygiene and things like that, and it also made him rich. So they're not really in conflict. And very often we think of it to be in conflict, and that happens only when we are void of imagination.
That's really nice. So there are a slew of questions, but do we have time for one more?
Sure, I'm fine.
Yes, sir. So we have noticed in the telemedicine video that the optometrist first do the initial analysis, and the final report is submitted to the consent doctor over online. So how do we ensure that the optometrists in the camps don't subvert the doctor and recommend the solutions directly?
So in any organization, I think you need to put two things in place. One is control systems, but I think more importantly, the right values in the system. So as long as the values are deeply kind of ingrained, I think things will work, because control system can work. So the control system can have two ways of manifesting. One is policing, that is one way of control. The other way could be into a system or a process wherein multiple things are mandated. Like for example, in our vision centers, the process requires that every patient, the data is uploaded onto the EMR, which is in the cloud, and then every patient gets the consultation. And then on a daily basis, that is monitored. How many patients did not get a consultation? If they did not, was there a valid reason for doing that online? And because sometimes the internet is down and things like this, so they may do a phone consultation which is not captured in the database. They would. So I think those that combination of having a control system and having the right value system is the way one would have to address this kind of instance, or pretty much anything, because we're always dependent on someone else to do the work in a large organization.
So that was really an informative session. We have Balram sir as well in the call.
Thank you, Balram. Thank you for making the introduction.
Yes, sir. So I think in the interest
sorry, I was trying to figure out where the unmute button was. Something else was covering. Nice to see you, sir. I had a class till 11:45, and so I could listen only to the last 15 minutes. And as usual, it has always been extremely value adding for me listening to you. So there is always a new thing that I hear every time I listen to you. So great. I mean, fantastic. Hope you are doing fine.
Yeah, we're all doing fine. I got my vaccine also for sure.
And thanks a lot for agreeing to be a speaker.
Hope it was useful to all those who are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to add to what Professor Balram was saying that, even though one reads about Arvind, I mean, even in this session, one learns something new, and especially with what's been happening in recent years. Many questions to you, Mr. Thulsiraj, so probably we'll drop a line. So
Sure.
the students should go ahead and ask their questions. So
Sure.
thank you.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you.
So-
Really enjoyed this talk and interaction. Thanks, Nikhil.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for joining us tonight. Thank you, the participants. Thank you, everyone, for making this session a great success. Thank you, one and all.
So I'll sign off, Nikhil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Good day, sir. Thank you to all the participants for joining us today. Have a good day.